I've always had a thing for distilled spirits and cocktails. There's so much to them. There's the skill that goes into the spirits themselves, and then there's the artistry that goes into combining ingredients into something that's delicious to sip. I'm Courtney Drake McDonough, the publisher and managing editor of RealFoodTraveler.com, a digital culinary travel magazine. I'm also the host of the Real Food Traveler podcast. And today we're talking to Nicholas Chambers, who is the, get this, chief alchemist for Dune Valley Distilling in Masca, Colorado, which is a small town in a beautiful, beautiful area in Colorado. He's created more than just a distillery. There's much more, and he's going to tell us about it today. And we'll be pairing this podcast with a written article that gives you live links and some photos so you can read along or just learn more on our website at realfoodtraveler.com. Nicholas, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start with the big overview question. What is Dune Valley Distillery?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's Colorado's newest distillery on the street. However, it's been 4 years in renovating the building and just kind of bringing the first idea up to opening our doors just last June with a very soft opening. So it kind of evolved out of being in this agricultural campus. We are at my food business, which is Valley Roots Food Hub, has been operating on this old school campus in Masca, Colorado, right next to the Great Sand Dunes National Park. And this potato house puts 10 semis a day of potatoes out the door and ships all around the world. And so the valley here is second in potato agriculture exports, fresh potato exports. So, we were like swimming in this awesome potato agriculture. And then the farm that runs that potato house is also the one that brought quinoa to North America. So we're also the capital of North American quinoa. And then we have this great old school campus with this great old abandoned building that I had my eyes on, and it was the old gymnasium, and it was totally derelict, totally abandoned, and it was adobe, and it's got this rich sort of historical history. And when you talk to the old timers around, everybody's got their stories about it. And being in the food business, and this is like diehard Colorado local foods, which is everything. That's meat, dairy, produce, value added, everything across the board. We just, we wanted to see and experience local foods like was a little hard to see out there in the world. And so we were kind of like catalyzing around this idea of, there's another point too that I need to mention is my great grandfather was Anthony Carboni, and was an Italian immigrant in Denver, 1903, started food imports, Italian food, olive oils and wines and things like that, and then eventually getting into California wine during Prohibition, went underground, and then at the lifting of Prohibition in 1933, he got the first wine and liquor license in the state of Colorado, and that's Carboni wine. So I grew up with this story. And, it was always a thing. We talked about it with family people like, oh, wouldn't that be fun to revive that someday? And so here I was in the middle of potato agriculture saying, well, I don't have my thumb on grape agriculture or winemaking, but we could make a mean potato vodka. So, and then the building, it was like, oh, and we'll relaunch the wine label. We'll get the potato distillery going. And then the food has a showcase where it can really do its thing and be diehard local. So all these things sort of coalesced together, and that's what became Dune Valley Distillery.
Wow, it's amazing. And you said you had your soft opening in June?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just because people will be listening to this podcast for years to come.
Yeah.
We're talking in July, late July of 2023. So this is a opening in 2023. And you touched on availability of potatoes and the proximity to the sand dunes. For anybody who's not familiar with the sand dunes, talk a little bit more about what's special about where it's located, both the building and just the region itself.
Yeah, so this is South Central Colorado, San Luis Valley. It's one of the, I think it's the highest alpine valleys in the world and one of the largest. So we have lots of open space and lots of dark skies. We have like dark sky communities here, and so the sort of juxtaposition between our agriculture out in the valley floor, and then all the wilderness in the mountains is quite stunning. And it's rimmed by 14,000-foot peaks, and the Sangre de Cristos, which is just this backbone to the east, is just a really stunning mountain range. It makes it you feel like you're in the Alps or you're in Patagonia or somewhere kind of exotic. And then at the base of those mountains is the Great Sand Dunes National Park, which is one of our nation's treasures, and it's really just a stunning um, landscape, and it's just bizarre with these mountains and these sand dunes, and then this creek flows down through it, and it kind of shimmers across the sand and migrates, to one side or the other of this flat sand plain. Um, so all really rich stuff, and a lot of people travel miles and miles to come visit us there. And so Masca is at the very town turnoff to go to the dunes, on at least on one side. So Masca itself is a very small community. There's not a lot going on except this potato agriculture and the quinoa and the food hub, and now this revived old school gymnasium getting back online. Um, and so it's in the east side of the valley, and it's a couple hours from Taos, New Mexico, about 4 hours from Denver, and then our closest town is Alamosa, about 15 minutes away. And there is an airport there that you can get a real cheap flight to Denver, which therefore accesses the rest of the country and world. So yeah, like I said, it's second in potato export. So big potato ag, a lot of other good ag, and it's high elevation, 8,000 feet. So a lot of our crops are naturally just more nutrient dense due to the cool nights and warm but not too hot days we get. That diurnal temperature change really makes really good produce. So everything from alfalfa to carrots and beets and potatoes and everything. We just have really good agriculture here.
I'm glad you brought up the carrots and beets because I don't know a ton about distilled spirits except that I like them. But I read that while the base of your spirits is organic potato vodka, that you are using fruit, carrots, beets, rye, and quinoa. And so, can you explain how that works? I mean, does it get infused into it or is it part of the initial base?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different approaches, but potatoes, only really 1% of global vodka is made from potatoes, so it's still kind of an obscure starch source. And what we're doing there is taking the starch in a potato and breaking it up. And starch is essentially a bundled carbohydrate sugar. So we need to kind of like unpack it, and then we get it to be a fermentable sugar, and then yeast can ferment it like they would anything else, and then they make ethanol as a byproduct. For these other things, like carrots, beets, they all have sugars too, so you can ferment them. I haven't seen the as good as fermentable sugars from those items as potatoes, but it's there. And I've played around a little bit with carrots because we have this great farm that just grows ginormous Bangor carrots, and our beets are really strong. Um, the one that I did have good luck with was peaches, and that was doing a fermentation and distillation on straight peach liquor, or peach, essentially like a peach tea, more or less. And then the other one that we are doing in earnest, because that's kind of our namesake of our community, is the quinoa. And that is done in the world. In fact, when we were cooking up this idea, the farmer, I was sitting in his office, and he was like, I think this is a good idea. And he whips out a French made vodka that was quinoa and rye, I believe.
Hmm.
And we poured it in dirty coffee cups and had it right there. And so it has been done as kind of a niche thing. And we're going to do it as well. And quinoa is, of course, a globally known kind of a niche superfood, high protein food, originally from the Andes. And yeah, starting in the early 80s, its agriculture had been brought to our valley, and now it's going gangbusters and doing really well. And we've got a good seed stock that's adapted to our specific climate and valley, which reminisce of what the Andes are like, where quinoa came from.
Mhm. Do these fruits and vegetables and grains Do they lose their nutritional value in the course of becoming vodka?
Yeah, I think so. And we may get into this later, but one of my deals on taking on this project was I kind of had terms like if we were going to do this and I was going to spearhead, at least laying the foundation and getting this renovation done and being a primary equity sort of stakeholder. We were going to do it with as much renewable energy as possible. So one of my things I've been working on for 15 plus years is anaerobic digestion, and that is taking organic byproducts and put them in anaerobic environments where anaerobic microorganisms work on that material and release methane. So some people call it biogas digesters or any number of names. But the result is organic material releasing methane. And so when we do our distilling process, after we do the mashing and the distilling, what's left is like your potato mash. So all the nutrients that you mentioned, could be land applied for fertilizer or composted or something like that, or simply flushed down the drain and it all goes through an anaerobic digester and they make gas for us. And that gas comes back to the building to run the boilers and hot water heating and all that type of stuff. So yeah, as far as the spirits are concerned, there's not the nutrient value from the vegetables and products it came from.
Okay, so I can't say it's health food. I can't pass that off. Okay.
Not quite.
That's
Not
okay.
quite.
Well, so you touched on the renewable energy. Tell us more about that and why that was so important for you and for the project in
That's
general.
just been my passion for a long time. Starting with biodiesel so long ago, and in the communities that we live in, it's a lot of off-grid living. So solar, thermal, and PV, and biodiesel, and then I started on this digestion thing, and then wood chip gasification is a part, and so all these technologies I've been sort of trying to keep up and promote and get out there, and having a project to embed them in was a big part of this. And again, that was kind of one of my terms. So we'll have digesters out back, taking all that includes sewage and all the food scraps from the kitchen and all the potato mash that goes to the digester to make gas for the facility. And then also you do get a fertilizer still out of the back end of that. The second one is wood chip gasification. Is essentially just using wood chips in a very controlled combustion environment, and then taking all the heat from that blast to run the steam boiler. The steam is what cooks the potatoes and does the distillation processes and all of that. And then that wood chip gasifier also makes biochar as a byproduct, which kind of continues to circulate in the agricultural communities, going into soils. And we can even filter our spirits. Vodka is very traditionally run through a charcoal filtration as the final step. So we'll be making that on site as well out of wood chips. We do have a little biodiesel scene with our food distribution business. We're constantly bringing back used cooking oil to our warehouse where we have a small processor. Vegetable oils go into making a diesel fuel. And then, of course, distillation itself, little known, but, ethanol coming off, traditional fermentations and distillations was one of our nation's prime renewable alternative fuels. And there's a great story behind it. And the fact that it's not more centered in our society, and the fact that it got such like a bad rap about using as a motor fuel is really a testament to how deeply embedded we are into the just sort of oil paradigm, and really the propaganda that was put up against it. But it's so accessible, so agricultural. And again, these are things where you use the process, and kind of like we were talking about earlier, the byproducts of ethanol to fuel means that the byproducts, which is the mash and all the stuff that's left over after distillation, is all going back to the soils. So you have this very closed loop agricultural system when you use ethanol as a fuel. So that's a big one. Solar thermal is, of course, just taking the sun's energy and concentrating it in hot water. The hot water goes to the building heating and backup domestic water heating and all that type of stuff, traditional solar. So I don't want to say all of these are coming in strong, except the digester is coming in strong, and the wood chip gasifier is coming in, but we're certainly tickling the toe of the dragon at least to get all these things to be there. So I sometimes build this as a renewable energy park, a place where people can come and learn about micro industry, about how the byproducts of one industry are the end products of the other industry, and everything sort of works together on this campus in a sort of a closed loop way. And that's been one of my dreams for a long time, is to be able to build a little park like that. So we're trying to dress it up with distillery as the close, but underneath it's going to be functioning like one of these renewable energy parks.
So, what now I'm really, really curious. What were you doing before the idea of the distillery came about? You seem to know so much about so many different things.
Yeah, so I've been in Colorado local food distribution for 8 years. Has been my main thing, and we essentially hit the ground running as the founding GM of Valley Roots Food Hub. And now we are from Durango to Denver, Springs and Pueblo, and north south from Alamosa up to Frisco. So for those on the map, it's a good part of the state. And we have our sort of fingers in all the agricultural zones. So if Colorado grows it, we essentially get it into our network, and then we don't leave the state too. So all our customers are here. And before that, yeah, I was more in the renewables, small farming myself, homesteading, off-grid homesteading, and working in the energy sector, doing solar thermal and heating systems, and some biodiesel work and things like that, and digestion. I've done a number of digesters here in our valley.
Mm.
About that. Um, so yeah, and dreaming about how we can get these renewables more into the mainstream and get more people using them and things like that. Is what I was kind of embedded in.
Yeah. So, all of those things, along with your family's history in the winemaking business, it sounds like they all came together to make you want to do this. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, it was all those things coming together. It was a perfect storm. As far as wanting to see local foods done in a way that I wasn't seeing done. Everyone says on their menu, local and organic when available. And I just don't buy that. To me, we're local and organic all the time because that's how we roll. That's all we got. So this is not like we need Cisco or Shamrock to service this facility. Like, we have an entire distributor ready to go at right next door. There's an entire warehouse right next door. So there was that piece. There was the piece of like this old school Colorado label, which was the first liquor license in Colorado, which was just a unique thing that no one else could claim, and would be fun to do. And then once we started taking that out over to the wine areas of Colorado, which is the Palisade area, wineries are just super into what we're doing. And so we ended up partnering with a couple of wineries. So we have a red, a rosé, and a Chardonnay, um, and very pleased with those. And so that whole side of it's super exciting. And I'm kind of a history buff myself, and just the unique history of this building being an old Adobe gymnasium. It was a recycled airplane hangar from World War I that they brought over and reassembled. And then just hearing all the stories, all the people that went to school there, and all the games that were played. And there's still old sponsorship um, banners up in the gym of all these old businesses that sponsored, the games back in the day and all that type of stuff. And then, yeah, an opportunity to see renewable energy sort of at least have a place where I could, arrange them in such a way where everything's working together, and not, being off grid wasn't like the goal, but in a way it's kind of set up that it could be that way. And that's interesting to do. And there's some business things there that are a little tough because it sets myself up for making things more expensive, take longer, and be harder to do. So I got to be careful with it. But in the long run, like, if we can really internalize all our operating expenses to this renewable closed loop system, our operating expenses should be lower. So, that's one of the long-term goals that we should see out of this. So it should make business sense. Um, and then, yeah, just being an alchemist and liking to transmute things and create things that light on fire is one of my passions. And this seemed to check a lot of boxes. And then just engaging the community as well. I want to add, because it was a passion project from the get go. And then when community members just come out of the blue and say, "Hey, I really like this. I want to invest," and then the ball keeps rolling. I mean, it's a neat thing to be a part of. Not necessarily the best way to do it, as far as not having all the funds in place at the beginning and just kind of going forward with hope and a prayer. But anyway, that's how this one evolved, as sometimes they do.
Hmm.
So yeah, it should be a good community resource for our neck of the woods for many moons to come.
Yeah. Well, I'm always fascinated with how businesses come to be and how everything comes together. And as you mentioned, this has been 4 years in the making, and
Yeah.
beyond that, the time in which the spark started, and you just started talking about this and getting, when it was just something you conceived of before things started to really become a reality. Because you're doing so many things, I mean, there's so many aspects to this business. I'm just curious, were there any times where you kind of thought, "Oh, this is what have I done? This is a lot." Or have you been able to keep up this enthusiasm that I'm hearing from you, the whole time?
Oh, I've definitely learned what I'm good at, what I enjoy doing, and conversely, what I'm not so good at and what I don't enjoy as much. That just became really black and white and very clear. As soon as we opened the doors, like, I love building, I love construction, I love working with my hands. And that's all, with doors closed and the public is not involved, and we just get to, play our loud music. And and I say we, my brother came over to be kind of lead carpenter, and then my nephew also moved here to work on this project. So us three have been the main renovators, aside from plumbers and electricians. So really enjoyed that part. I just loved it. And then opening to the public is just it's a whole different game. Even with my food hub work, we're primarily a wholesaler. All the sales go through online, all the ordering's online, and then we just deliver to the back of restaurants and grocers and things like that. So it's very much a different scene. Being having regular hours where the public comes, I mean, it's really challenging. And my hat's off to those people who are good at it and excel at it. And I am learning, and we're hoping to attract more of the talent that wants to help come fly the ship with us. Um, so yeah, no, it's been real. It's been just different for me, and no, it's been hard. It's been real hard, because we're still building and we're hosting the public.
Mhm.
Um, and just capital has been constrained. So yeah, there's been a lot of things that are growing pains for probably any business. And we're certainly not apart from that. And yeah, we're just learning about it. But as time goes, we have developed a really good team that's also very easily and organically come to the table. So we're able to take care of service hours pretty good, and hats off to them as well. So I think it's just about learning about what you're good at and what you enjoy. And sometimes when you get out of your lane, you get a little self-feedback loop about, those are the people that you need to recruit and we need to get in place. And really, it is such a huge project too, that it's just so beyond one person. So I just hope there'll be a day when I can just really focus on running the facility. And again, the facility is not just a flipper switcher, it's really involved just to do the distilling. And the distilling also is the mechanical systems are built into the building, so the heating of the building is tied in with the distilling process and things like that. So there'll be a day when I'll just show up and I will focus on that and do that well, and we'll be putting out a good product. And there'll be other people that will, be able to corral all the other aspects of doing something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's paint a picture of what it's like to go there then, to Dune Valley Distillery. Describe the space inside, what it looks like, and like if there's a certain theme to the decor or anything.
Yeah, so our first take on the building, it's a big white behemoth, kind of elicits this old Spanish colonial vibe, a Spanish hacienda vibe a little bit. Um, and it's adobe, so some of the walls just are kind of soft and rounded, and whitewashed. So that's kind of the outside feel of it. It's a big old, you know, gable end gymnasium part, and then the front is sort of like these parapets, which give it that sort of Spanish colonial hacienda feel. But it's an old gym, so on the big part, the old gym wood floors are still there, and they're in beautiful shape, and they're just really fantastic. And then we have tons and tons of the old bleacher boards um, from the campus, and so we have used those in all the finished carpentry, and we've used it in a wainscoting that sort of matches what we've done. And we built pretty much like half on the gym floor. So that's for the distillery and the kitchen and the bathrooms and things like that. But again, half of it's open, so 20-foot high ceilings, basketball hoops, and then the Valley Roots Food Hub has a little store um, out on the gym floor, and that's just all the shelf stable goods and snacks and great little things that we have brought together from across the state of Colorado. And then on the front side is where kind of the bar, main traditional bar, will go, and different seating rooms and things like that. And then nice big kitchen, bathrooms, so on and so forth. We will have by next year at grand opening time a nice courtyard. It'll be nicely landscaped. We'll have a Orno out there for wood-fired bread baking. And yeah, that's basically it. We're the history is big, so highlighting the history of the school and the community is always fun. And then of course my grandfather and my great grandfather's label and their wine label and their warehouse in Denver, in the 30s and 40s and 50s and stuff. We've got some imagery of all that too. So yeah, that's the basic feel. We are doing music. There's a stage. So we hope to have, dinner theaters, and I mean, we can host weddings there, conferences. It's the type of thing where you can have a conference on the gym floor and still have regular service out on the front. And then there's a mezzanine. So one could grab these elevated seating positions for, a show on the stage. And there's even 2 hotel rooms up there.
Wow. Sounds
Yeah.
huge.
It's a big space. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I walked in the door there today, I mean, do you just walk in and somebody seats you, or do you like head up to the bar first, or how does it work?
Yeah, so what we've done is sort of a phased opening, just because after 4 years, we just had to open the doors this summer. Again, if it was my choice, we probably would have just kept building and just get done, but um, we had to open. So basically, you come in and you're kind of greeted by what will be a bleacher, old bleacher restoration with a trophy case. And then if you go left, that'll be the front rooms, which is still under construction. But you go right out onto the gym floor, and we do have a sort of phase 1 bar there that's into the distillery room, which has this great mural on the ceiling of migrating sandhill cranes. So this is an invitation that's just, you got to see it. But one of our local artists did this beautiful ceiling fresco of these migrating cranes on a blue sky. It's gorgeous. And then our distilling equipment and everything is in there. And then, out on the gym floor is the store and some seating and things like that.
So just to clarify, and again, you and I are speaking late July 2023. You are open right now. It's just that your things are happening in phases.
Yes,
Right.
we're opening. Okay. We have events. We've been doing, kind of a Thursday through Monday hours. And we've got a few events scheduled. I will tell you, we are doing these 5-course local food dinner experiences with one of our chefs who's just coming in, and this is what he does. And again, back to that part about just like, I just wanted to see local food done in a really high, elevated, concerted, and deliberate way. And so this chef is just going to go to the nines on it. It's going to be really nice.
Great.
So yeah, it is a little bit of a phased opening. But by summer of May 2024, it should be all guns blazing, everything's functioning, all the spaces are open. Yep.
Great. Well, more reasons to keep coming back, right? See how
Yes,
things are
that's right.
progressing. So let's talk about the wine now. Tell me a little bit more about Carboni wine and how that parallel bringing back happened and how it ties in with the distillery.
Yeah, so Anthony Carboni was 18, less than 18 when he came over to Boston from Avellino, Italy. And he actually was a part of a family, the Carbonis over there in Avellino, and they had vineyards and a great estate and were deep in the wine culture. And his dad came over to the States to market the wine and was killed in a train wreck. Anthony at the time was under 18 or of age. And so, due to the law at that time in Italy, the the province of Avellino took the property. It did not go to the mom or did not go to the young son. The province took it back, which is kind of unfortunate. So Anthony set off in Boston on his own, did various things, was on his way to California to get into the wine industry because at the time Colorado had no wine industry. He stopped in Denver and realized that this was a perfect center of the continent, had a great market, was close enough to California to be sort of an intermediary. So he set up shop and he started with macaroni and imports like that. And then there was a macaroni factory. It was called Western Union Macaroni Company. And that was actually bought, but what later became American Beauty, which is a household name today, right? You know, American Beauty pasta.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of his work went into them, you know, assuming their place of of dominance of just being that big pasta company. And then he started importing the wines from California, and then he had deals with all the distilleries around the nation at the time. And then during Prohibition, or actually Colorado went dry first, and then he moved everything up to Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is just over Colorado state lines. Operated there until the nation went dry, and then of course we say, they went underground or did what they did during those years of Prohibition. And then Prohibition was lifted, and he was in line for the license number one, which is a cool story. So Carboni wine was launched. It was still all California grapes and wine that he brought in. He had his warehouse down in Wazee Street in Denver, and at the time was the largest wine and liquor distributing west of the Mississippi, um, and operated that. And his son John, who was my grandfather, ended up taking over the company and running it for quite some time. And they had a deal to sell the entire thing, and they did in the late 50s, I want to say. And then we've been out of it since. My uncle ran a investment company called Carboni Investments for a while. And so it's been lying dormant for quite some time. Again, we always talked about it. My mom, God bless her, was really into, researching it and getting to know the facts about what was what and this and that. And, collecting bottles. And there's now in Palisade, of course, I think their wine industry started like in the 70s of putting in vineyards. And now Palisade is an amazing wine production area. And there's a little display in one of the wineries about Colorado history of wine. And of course, she put together a real nice carboning display on that. So I've been a winemaker. We make, just due to where we are, choke cherry wines and meads, peach wines. I have one grape vine in my greenhouse that I make a wine from and things like that. My license for this business is a distillery, so I'm not allowed to make and sell wines. And we may get a wine label going, or a wine license rather, someday. But what we did is just went to these wineries in Palisade, share with them our story, get to know them, and they're producing wines for us under our label. And that works out really well just because, again, we're in potato country, and potatoes, that sort of raw agricultural crop, and quinoa that I have my thumbs on. And then we could do something that where the expensing and the margins and everything's going to just work out great. And then we decided just to partner with the Palisade wineries. And so, yeah, we have a Sangre Rosé, very nice and fruity, and a Blanca Chardonnay. And of course, Sangre is the mountain range we're on, and Blanca is the big mountain at the end of the Sangres. and then we did a Sauvage Red, and Sauvage Spectrum is one of the wineries in Palisade doing that one. Um, so it's a great start for our little lineup. We got labels revived, and they all look the classic old school way. And yeah, people have been enjoying them, and it's been a great accompaniment to the otherwise sort of distillery, um, of those types of things.
So you're serving the Carboni wine at the distillery.
Yes, yes.
Okay, gotcha. And why was it so important to you and your family to bring it back and especially, through Dune Valley?
Yeah, it's a lot of times a good story is worth a lot. And it goes well with kind of an experience-based food and beverage business. So just to have this richness of a story and be able to have the photos that sort of document it, we thought would just be a good sort of all-around package to market what we're doing, and to revive, the wine and the wine label, and then add to, the distillery, which is, brand new. But it's got its roots in this. So and the official company name is A Carbone and Company, and that's what he called it back in the day as well. And that's the official name of the company that runs the distillery and Carboni wine. So yeah, it just seemed to match. Everything just went together, and we just kept going forward.
Cool. So this is obviously a very deeply connected and deeply involved family business for you, which can be a good and bad thing for people. So can you talk about some of the pluses and minuses of this being so family oriented?
Oh man, the pluses are so many. I've like never been so close to my mom in these last years. Never been so close to two of my brothers as in these last years. One of them invested, and one is the main contractor on site. And my nephew moved here, and we weren't very close before, but now we're super close. And so in that way, it's been really rich. And just to get together with these people who are our brethren, and we were, somewhat aloof. And now we're just like daily super tight. And that's just been a real joy. And my brother, the contractor one, he's a musician, as am I. So at the end of our days, we've been playing music up in the gym. There's a little office and fully set up with all the equipment. And so we work hard all day, and then we jam into the night. And that's just been one of the things that I did not see coming. And it's just been really rich and awesome. So all that stuff's been really fun. The drawbacks probably that it can be a passion project where you just plow forward because you want to, and this we must do type of thing. And um, you bootstrap it maybe a little bit more than you should, or you could just go forward knowing that you don't have all the money to do it, and all that type of stuff. And that's just the hard part, which again could be growing pains for any business, but certainly when it's just a family fueled passion project, um, you just go forward and keep going forward. Um, so yeah, but I think it's mostly been good, and just being tight with those family members who you weren't prior. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talked about the dinner series that you're going to have during these opening months. Now, what are your plans for, even if they're just sort of a concept at this point? What are your plans for some of the special events you'll do and some of the specials, including I have to call out, there's a certain cocktail that harkens to the name of the city, the town that you're in, that I just think is so clever. So tell us about some of the specials that you have going on too.
Yeah, so Boricua Dinners, this is the local food experience. He's a Food Hub customer, and we connected just because he just dived into our offerings and used everything. And he just does a real special experience, as far as 5-course plated dinners for his guests. And I was like, hey man, I really like what you do. I love how you stick really and want to showcase our Colorado local foods. What happened if you come down for a handful of weekends and do that here at this new venue? He was super on board. What a great guy. Chef Steven Rodriguez, and he is baroquafood.com. An amazing chef. So we're really looking forward to his stuff. So we have one coming up August 4th and 5th, and then another coming up September first and second this year, and then next year we'll get some more planned. Um, and that's 5 courses. Really going in just produce, meat, dairy, and value added all onto his thing. We've also done just some local sort of grilling out and just getting the community out there. Being in a rural place, you have to import your audience. So our marketing and promotion and anything we could do just to get the word out so people stop in and check us out is just really critically valuable. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on podcast with you, Courtney. And I see music. Again, I'm a musician, so I want to see Celtic night and bluegrass night and open mic night and poetry night, all these types of things, and dinner theaters where there's a play going on while you're doing dinner. We're doing a series of farm tours as well. So we start at 9 a.m. in the morning. We get a bus. Everyone hops in. We go in our local community of Masca, we got, like 2 or 3 good stops. And then we have one that goes south. We have one that goes west and one that goes north and just hits all these cool locations of farms and ranches and aquaculture facilities and manufacturers and all that type of stuff. So those will be real cool. And we're doing the first set this weekend, Saturday, and then they end at the distillery for a nice cocktail hour. And then one of our staff members who joined us, who I was praising just to have a different skill set than I do and being able to take care of the public facing food and beverage, she's into Renaissance fairs and things like that, and that really speaks to me too. So I think we're going to do some type of like Renaissance fair next summer. And there could be concerts out in the field. Again, it's an old school campus, so we've got a track and a football field. So it's pretty much 2 football fields out back that are it's really ripe. We might have some camping going on out there. We could have full scale concerts out there, all kinds of things like that. Art shows. We want to really stimulate the arts in many ways. And we did get also the funding to do the Orno from the Sangre de Cristo Natural Heritage area. So there'll be cultural programming like that. Let's bake bread in an Orno the way the Spanish been doing here for 400 years. All those types of stuff. And then, we want to speak, it's the geomancy of the place. And so we have the world famous Masca mule, not the other one, but this is the Masca mule. And we are fresh making that in-house, fresh ginger, fresh lime, and then our potato vodka. And then we have 3 other cocktails on tap right now for this summer. And those are a mojito and a chupacabra tonic and a regular tonic. And we also have some peach infused, cherry infused, and strawberry infused vodka for mixing into cocktails. We will have a gin coming down the line very soon. And then we will be doing some brown spirits. But I tell you, I'm not necessarily a brown spirit guy myself. I know it's popular. I know it's a thing. I really think a nice potato vodka that has terroir to it is almost something we're going for. And it's like a vodka can be not just a neutral grain spirit or a neutral spirit, but can actually speak and have aromas of the soils and of the geography and of the communities in which it came from. And so we have a cool thing going. I think the vodka we're making right now is a vanilla thing, even though there's no vanilla involved. It's just one of the aromas that comes off it. And then the gin is very exciting because we get to do some wild crafting and we get to do our own botanical formulations that really, again, speak to our region and what we do uniquely and special. And then, of course, the quinoa stuff is its own sort of vodka line that's a little bit separate. So the white spirits we will definitely be specializing in. And in 2 to 3 years' time, there'll be some brown spirits that have been aged and barreled. So,
well, you have so much going on, and but you're so enthusiastic about it, and you have such good ideas. I have no doubt you're going to do great at this. You've really got great ideas for how to appeal to a whole bunch of people in a whole bunch of different ways. I like to ask this question when I'm talking to people who have a new business because I did the same thing with my websites. When you stand in the corner, let's say, or up in the where you go play music at night, and you look at the space, do you ever imagine on its best day where everything's just in place and it's exactly the way you envisioned it to be? Do you ever imagine what a fantastic day looks like there? And if so, tell me what that looks like to you.
Yeah, I think it starts with the employees and the people that work there. And if they're happy and content and just excited to come to work and rock this very artistic, awesome scene, that is a good day. And so I see, yeah, it's full of travelers, people from around the country who are coming to maybe see the Great Sand Dunes National Park or visiting or passing through in some way or another. And then also a good amount of locals in the store, and people are shopping at the store, you know, very actively. And maybe the locals are actually stocking their kitchens for the week, and the visitors are grabbing, all this great grab and go shelf stable stuff that we got. Um, and such a way that the volume is so abundant that we have to go next door to the warehouse to like restock the store maybe 2 or 3 times in a week. That excites the heck out of me because, of course, the food hub has been my business. So having a great retail customer that needs to stock their store 2 to 3 times a week is just super exciting. And of course, we don't do that for anyone. We have like a once per week aggregation cycle for all our customers across the state. So that's again reason why to put the store there is, man, we could keep it stocked super easy and we could really support high volume. I see music going on all day and all night and many nights a week. And I'm particularly fond of traditional Irish music, but I see jazz and I see, good old folk and Americana and some rock and roll. I see all kinds of stuff. And these dinner theaters where we dim the lights, yeah, people get have their meal while this cool act is going on. The front of house is busy and bustling, and some of the themes we've gone to for the vibe is sort of new Spanish, or it's new colonial Spanish, and also kind of a steampunk vibe, with the distillery and the copper and the stainless steel and a lot of metal going on. And we've used copper to accentuate all over the place, and it's kinetic. Things are moving. You can touch stuff. There's a story on every wall, and people are just really sort of had by the experience that they get, and I think especially in this day and age where we have everything at the flick of our finger on our screen, we have knowledge and information and visuals and all kinds of stuff. But I think what we're lacking is experience and something where people can just feel like they've been broadened and they learned something or they saw something that just intrigued them. Um, that all is inspiring to me. And then back to the systems, it's like, okay, well, here's the distillery tour, and then we go out back and you learn about the wood chip gasifier making the steam, and then you go learn about the anaerobic digester that's making the gas on the potato mash and the food scraps from the kitchen, and then you see even how a food hub delivery truck is getting fueled up from that station. And so, what I like to say is during the weekend, we might be giving tours to adults with cocktails in hand. And during the weekdays, it might be school kids on a tour. And I hope that it's that rich and I hope that it's that relevant and means something to society more than just drinking and alcohol. But there's actually something going on here that could be replicated and deployed elsewhere. And that's how we build little, micro industry um, developments where, yeah, one industry takes the outputs as their inputs and vice versa. Um, so I guess that's what I see. And I guess a big one is just volume, a good amount of people um, interested in utilizing our goods and services, and also employees that they're happy to and stoked to have an employee ownership stake in the company, and that they can find livelihoods doing this stuff. And again, it's not just superficial food and beverage, but it goes deeper. It goes deeper to how society is built, how it could be built more sustainably and renewably and carbon neutrally. In fact, wood chip gasification can be carbon negative. And so come learn about that. How do we actually do carbon negative renewable electricity? Does that really exist? We'll come learn about it. We'll show you how we think we can do it. So I think that's what I see. And I see plenty of time and money and abundance for everybody.
Well, that's a good vision. One thing I just realized, we talked about the food hub and we talked about the dinners, but are you going to have a menu going on, like food offerings all the time?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it will be very representative of our offerings. So like burgers, all the farmers around and all of us, burgers are big, but we can do yak, beef, bison, elk. Of course, French fries, potatoes. So we'll do fingerlings. We'll do French fries. We'll do, hash browns. We'll do mashed potato. All the anything and everything you can do with potatoes will be big. And then you go to quinoa. We make, I think, one of the world's best flourless chocolate quinoa cakes or quinoa muffin or cupcake or something. It is amazing. You'll never know. It has no flour in it, and it's just quinoa. And then quinoa salads, all kinds of salads. So that's a big one. And then our carrots. We'll have carrot cake. We'll have carrot coins, carrot sticks, and on down the line. And then, again, I'm just the creator of the vessel, but the chef who's coming on board. What we like to say and how we recruit is, it's not what you want, or it's not what Shemrock can bring you on the truck. It's what we have as a Colorado local food system. So you have to not say what I want, but it's what do I have to work with, and then boom, there's the menu. So yeah, it should be abundantly diverse. It should change somewhat seasonally as our crops change. Like our potato season is really September into June, and then during the summer there's some sort of gapping in potatoes, but then it kicks back up again, and then we have it again solid. So some things like that. Quinoa is pretty much year round. Our famous carrots go from September to May. So it's kind of funny. A lot of people think that Colorado doesn't have a produce program in the winter, and that's really when our produce program is the most abundant. It's from September to December, really.
Well, we always advocate eating local and, as much as possible. And I love the idea of how much the local produce and local everything that you're going to be using is a reflection of Masca, is a reflection of that area too. I mean, really hyper local. So I love the idea of visiting the destination and knowing that you're eating from it too. So that's pretty cool. Let's wrap up by giving the important information of how people can learn more and so that they can come visit you.
Yeah, Instagram is a good one, I guess, these days. Talking about one of the things that I'm not good at is that, but I have people that help, and it is where it's sort of the world's sort of newspaper these days. But Instagram has been good. Dune Valley Distillery, also DuneValleyDistillery.com is a little delayed there, but if this is coming out down the road, you can refer to that. Valley Roots Food Hub is ValleyRootsFoodHub.com. Carboni Wine is carboniwine.com. And you can reach me through any of those avenues. And yeah, you should be able to find us there.
Okay. Well, Nicholas, I'm incredibly impressed by you. You are really a Renaissance man, and I'm incredibly impressed by how Dune Valley Distillery sounds, and I can't wait to come down and check it out. And I absolutely encourage our podcast listeners and our readers to go down there and check it out. And we will have sort of a written up version of this podcast on the website, along with some photos and live links to everything. So you'll be able to check it out that way, in addition to listening to this podcast, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a whole bunch of other listening services. We're always getting picked up on new ones all the time. So, Nicholas, thank you so much for your time today, and bravo to you for all that you're doing. And I just wish you the best of luck. I don't think you'll need it, but I wish you great luck and a lot of success.
Oh, I appreciate it, Courtney. We'll look forward to seeing you out there soon.